Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive into a totally fascinating topic, how the celestial dance of the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon completely dictates our perception of time, shapes our calendars, and even drives our culture. It is a wild journey from ancient skywatching all the way to modern space exploration, and I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through it.
Okay, let's dive into this with a question that might seem a little counterintuitive at first. Have you ever actually seen the moon during the day? It's one of those everyday mysteries that really makes us question what we take for granted about the sky above us. We're so hardwired to associate the moon strictly with the nighttime, but if you look up at just the right time, there it is, literally sharing the broad daylight with the sun. You know, to really picture this, our source text shares this great little anecdote about a girl named Mira. She was in Ahmedabad for Makar Sankranti, celebrating at the Patong Mahotsav, the massive international kite festival. So she's looking up at thousands of these bright, colorful kites, and suddenly she notices the moon, just hanging out right there in the middle of the day. And not only was it out during the day, it wasn't even a perfect circle. It sparked a brilliant question. If the moon is just a giant sphere reflecting sunlight, why doesn't it always look whole, and why on earth is it out during the daytime?
To answer Mira's question, let's jump right into Section 1, the shape-shifting moon.
So, if we track this cycle, starting from the new moon, or Amavasya, where it's practically invisible to us, its bright side starts to slowly grow. This growing phase, which takes about 2 weeks, is called the waxing period. Traditionally, in India, this is known as Shukla Paksha. Then, once it hits that big, bright full moon, or Purnima, it immediately begins to shrink back down. That shrinking phase takes another 2 weeks, and we call that the waning period, or Krishna Paksha. This constant, looping cycle is exactly what gives us the phases of the moon.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that big number 50. Because if you actually track the moon day after day, you're going to discover that it rises about 50 minutes later every single day. Here's why. The moon is constantly moving forward in its orbit while the Earth rotates. So the Earth actually has to spin just a little bit more each day for the moon to appear in that exact same spot in the sky. That 50-minute daily lag is precisely why the moon's schedule shifts so dramatically and why it so frequently pops up in our daytime sky.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, Mechanics of the Phases.
First up here, we have got to bust a massive myth. You've probably heard somewhere along the line that the moon's phases are caused by the Earth casting its shadow onto the moon. Nope, that is entirely incorrect. The Earth's shadow only hits the moon during a lunar eclipse, which is a super rare event that needs a very specific cosmic alignment. The everyday phases of the moon happen simply because the moon is reflecting sunlight from different angles as it travels around us.
You can actually wrap your head around this with a super easy mental model, or even try it at home. Just imagine a lamp in your room is the sun, your head is the Earth, and you're holding a small ball that represents the moon. If you hold that ball directly between your face and the lamp, the side of the ball facing you is completely dark, right? That's your new moon. Now, keep the ball at arm's length and slowly turn your body in a circle. You'll literally watch the lamp's light gradually illuminate a crescent, then a half circle, and eventually the full face of the ball when it's totally opposite the lamp. It's literally all about your viewing angle.
Let's pivot from natural space mechanics over to human history in Section 3, Crafting the Cosmic Calendar. Way back in the day, ancient skywatchers figured out that one lunar cycle takes about 29.5 days. If you multiply that out to build 12 lunar months, you get a lunar year of roughly 354 days. But there's a huge catch. The Earth actually takes about 365.25 days to finish its orbit around the Sun, and that solar orbit is what dictates our seasons. So a purely lunar calendar basically falls 11 days short of the solar year every single year.
If you just ignore those 11 missing days, your calendar is going to quickly fall totally out of sync with nature. Imagine trying to celebrate a spring harvest festival when it's suddenly the dead of winter. To fix this drift, ancient timekeepers, including several systems in India, came up with the lunisolar calendar. They kept the lunar months, but every 2 to 3 years, they just added an extra intercalendary month called Adhika Masa. It's basically a brilliant leap month that forces the lunar cycles to catch right back up with the solar year.
Now, for everyday administrative consistency, India also officially runs on a highly precise, purely solar system alongside the Gregorian calendar. We're talking about the Indian National Calendar. It was standardized back in 1956 by a committee led by the incredible astrophysicist Meghnad Saha. It is a 365-day solar calendar that aligns perfectly with the Earth's seasons, kicking off its new year on March 22nd, which is the day right after the spring equinox.
Section 4. Astronomy behind our festivals. So the crucial point is that these changing calendar mechanics actually dictate the moving dates of our biggest cultural events.
When we break it down, you can see exactly how different festivals sync up with the sky. Diwali, for instance, always falls on the new moon of a lunisolar calendar, whereas Holi lands squarely on a full moon. Because they use that lunisolar system with the leap month we talked about, their exact dates shift around on our standard Gregorian calendar, but they stay locked into the same general season. But check out Eid al-Fitr. It strictly follows a purely lunar calendar and is celebrated right after the crescent moon is sighted. Since that lunar year is only 354 days long, Eid actually marches earlier by about 11 days on the Gregorian calendar every single year.
And then you have festivals like Makar Sankranti, which operate on a solar sidereal calendar. These track the sun's position against the background stars, so they happen on almost the exact same Gregorian date every year. But there's this mind-blowing catch. The Earth actually wobbles on its axis very, very slowly, sort of like a spinning top that's just starting to lose its momentum. Because of that tiny wobble, the date of Makar Sankranti actually shifts forward by one single day every 71 years. It's just a fantastic reminder that we are riding on a dynamic, constantly moving spaceship of a planet.
All right, let's wrap things up with Section 5, the modern night sky.
So today, when you step outside and look up, you aren't just seeing ancient stars and the moon anymore. You are literally looking at human engineering. We launch artificial satellites that orbit roughly 800 kilometers above our heads, zooming all the way around the globe every 100 minutes. The Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, is doing absolutely phenomenal work up there. They've launched the Cartosat series for mapping the Earth, Astrosat to peer into deep space, the legendary Chandrayaan missions to the moon, and Aditya L1 to study the sun itself. We have essentially extended humanity's reach right out into the cosmos.
But all this incredible progress brings up a huge new challenge, and I want to leave you with this thought. As more and more countries launch satellites, our orbits are getting seriously crowded. And when those machines eventually die, they become space junk. So what happens to all that debris, and how is it going to permanently change our future night sky? It's a really provocative question, and it absolutely forces us to think about how we're going to treat our cosmic neighborhood moving forward. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and always keep looking up.